All right. Hey, lifers, welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. As always, I am your host, Eric Aroka. Hey, I've got a great episode lined up for y'all today. This is going to be awesome. I first met this gentleman. I haven't even actually met him officially. We just connected on LinkedIn. He reached out to me and we just started talking. I've been following him ever since, and I love it when he posts on LinkedIn because number one, it is always thought provoking, and number two, it's always entertaining. And I thought he would be a wonderful guest on the Live the Life podcast. So let me introduce all of you lifers to Bobby Dsouza. And Bobby is a motivational speaker in India. So yes, we are recording this, and there is a definite time difference. So Bobby, thank you very much for being willing to be on with us, especially with your time frame. He is the author of Fallen to Rise, and like I said already, he is a keynote speaker. He has been a wonderful keynote speaker throughout many different types of industries, whether it's IT, sales, ERP, telecom, you name it. He's basically done it. His work is centers around fueling daring cultures and shaping bold leaders who can rise beyond setbacks and embrace change. And if that's not enough, this guy, and this is why I say very entertaining, he also has a very unique format. He has musical keynotes. That's pretty impressive, Bobby. Pretty impressive, my man. Welcome to the podcast.
Such a joy. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Eric, and such a joy meeting you. We've had a couple of conversations. We've been, following each other's work, but, I'm looking forward to a wonderful conversation, a raw, unfiltered one. And hopefully everybody who sees it today, right away, and whenever they see it, maybe 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 20 years down the line, may it add value to people, every individual who sees it. That's the goal.
Excellent. I have the same exact goals that we are in sync, as you say. On the podcast, Bobby, we love to talk about winning cultures and how you go about creating winning cultures, because I am of the idea that winning cultures don't just happen, right? You have to be very intentional about making them happen. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast, like I mentioned, because you talk about daring cultures. So my first question for you would be, what does a daring culture look like?
That's a wonderful question. So coming straight to the point, number one, people who are leading daring cultures or are part of daring culture organization in any way possible. Number one, the teams boldly challenge how it has always been. They always challenge the norms without waiting for permission from their seniors. Now, for a lot of people, that might be shocking, but that's exactly what they do. Number two, leaders, who these people report to aren't threatened every time their team dares something and challenges the norm. Because somehow, the leaders are very clear about one thing. They're very clear that the motive of my team is to create audacious growth for the organization in every way possible. It is not about ego clashes and to show that I'm significant enough. The key goal is building audacious growth, which is basically like a shared purpose of the entire organization. I've realized that, organizations that have daring cultures, there is this whole trust that flows, but interestingly, they flow both ways. They're not like top down or just down up. They are flowing both ways. And the last thing I observed is that, working with 200 plus organization is that, every time when there is discomfort, that isn't avoided. It is embraced as a part of that audacious, big, daring growth.
Yeah, I love that. That is so great. I love that you mentioned like that challenging that status quo, because Bobby, I've been part of organizations where basically the message is, hey, listen, that's a great idea, but we don't do that here. We don't do it that way here. We've never done it that way here. We just don't do that. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what are we doing? So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think to be a daring culture, to have a daring culture, I think you have to be able to status the challenge quo and be open to it, right? Like embrace it, because I think
Mm,
that's dynamic, and it provides so much potential for the growth of your culture. So I love that you said that. That's
mm,
wonderful. Let
yeah,
me get my
yeah.
glasses on here so I can see my notes.
Mm,
All right. So,
correct.
who modeled bold leadership for you, and what did you learn from them?
When I look back at my own journey, over the last 22 years working with so many organizations, a lot of people actually have modeled bold leadership for me. But there are like a couple of people that I can think of. Like one of them was basically a very courageous leader in the community, who I was mentored and I was blessed to be mentored by him. This man had the guts to speak up when needed. Also, whenever conflicts happened, when people confronted him or a risky situation happened, when it was so easy for him to run away, I always observed that he role modeled bold leadership. So he folded his arms and was ready to face it face on. He was always leading from the front, literally, rather than hiding behind. So for me, that I think was very inspiring. When I look at my own life, I see that, I still fall short many times to be bold leaders in certain areas of my life. But every time I think of that leader who was in my life, it really encourages me. Now, a second person, of course, I've got a list of people, but there is
Sure.
one more person that I'm truly inspired by. And I guess I think, Eric, you are also inspired by that man, is Tony Robbins.
Sure. Yeah,
Correct?
definitely. Yeah.
Correct. So yeah. So one of the things that I really love and I've learned a lot from are the one-to-one coaching intervention that Tony Robbins does face to face in front of thousands of people. And one thing that I really liked about him is he does not focus on running around the bushes. What he will do is he will speak a truth even if the other person does not like it. And we can see the expression during a live intervention that people are not liking it. But he's got the
Yeah.
guts to speak even if people are feeling offended. And what I've realized is when you speak the truth, even if there is a mob, trying to persuade you that it's not going to work out, but somehow that, the truth sets people free. And I think in the world that we have today, we don't need only criticizers, complainers, and opinionated people who just comment on, social media. We need people who speak the truth, but whose focus is basically for betterment, for growth, for bigness. And these two people that I said are people who actually lived by those ethos.
Yeah, I love that. What wonderful examples it sounds like you've had. I mean, Tony Robbins has been a great example, I think, for many of us, especially those of us in the industry, right? And I love that he speaks truth. I'm glad that you've mentioned that you've had leaders in the past who speak truth, because it's easy for us to be offended, right? It's easy for us to say, well, that those words were very offensive and they're not, you
Mm,
know, we don't like them, but truth is truth. And I think as
mm,
leaders, and in order for us to have winning cultures, we have to speak truth over anything else, whether it hurts someone's feelings or not. You could speak truth to me, Bobby, and tell me something that I don't like, much like Tony Robbins does. And I mean, I don't have to like it, but I do have to accept and acknowledge truth when I hear it, right? So I think it goes both
mm,
ways. Like you were saying, it's one thing to speak truth, but then we also have to accept truth when we hear it, right?
mm. In fact, if I might just say this, I loved what you said. Uh, I am reminded actually of this leader that I spoke about, my mentor, who taught a lot about bold leadership to me. Here is a real life example, Eric, and you might find this very interesting. A lot of people do actually when I share it. I was in sales at the start of my career, and almost at the age of 18, 19, I became a territory sales manager. you know.
Yeah.
So at a very young age, I became a territory sales manager. So that whole designation went in my head. I always wanted people to show me respect as if I'm someone, you know. And what I observed is after a period of time, a lot of those guys in my team, they started resigning. Interestingly, the name of my team was called Warriors. After some time, the only warrior who was left in my team was me and one telemarketing executive who knew she had no other job. So this was the only option. So everybody resigned, and every morning I used to come give them a pep talk and get inspired, and I used to do whatever I could, at the teenage years. And one day, I was so frustrated recruiting. So I was recruiting a lot of people consistently, and then people on at the back door were leaving the organization at the same time. So my team was almost empty. And in the huddle, so in the early morning, there's huddle happening. There's a group of 20 people gathering, and a leader is talking with them. And I have only me and the telemarketing executive. And it was embarrassing for me. One day in the evening, I was so frustrated. I was so angry about this whole thing. And my mentor invited me for his birthday. So in India, we have something called as biryani. It's a very favorite dish. You can check it out on Google as well. So uh, he had made some great biryani. His family had made great biryani. But I was not enjoying the biryani. You know why? Because I was very, very annoyed. And he said, "What happened? You look cross. You sound angry." I said, "My team is like this and they don't care. They don't value. I put so much efforts for them. I did this for them. I did this for them." And he kept listening to me without interruption. After listening to my sob story and my pity party, he paused for some seconds and very softly pierced a truth that I hated. He said, "Bob, you're very selfish." I said, "What? What are you saying? Those people made a mistake. I invested so much in them and they left me." He said, "Bob, do you remember your team warrior was all about you? Your numbers, your target, your credibility, your credential. It was only about you, you, you. And somehow your team observed that." I hated what he said. I went back angry, didn't say anything to him because, I was a little nervous to tell him anything. I went back home, did not sleep well that night. Initially, my thoughts were, um, how the hell does he say something like this? This is not fair. Then after an hour or two, after that ego settled down a little, I said, is it possible that there was something right in what he said? And by the next 2, 3, 4 hours, and I did not sleep most of that night, I asked myself, Bobby, you are really a selfish man. It's not about you. It's about adding value to your team. How can you empower them? How can you help them? How can you help them grow rather than just your numbers? And over the last 22 years when this happened, and now 22 years, I've worked with like 36,000 people face to face. And I talk about servant leadership and being a person who serves from the heart. And I think the beginning was from here. So
Yeah.
lessons learned.
Dude, that is like uncanny how much you and I have in common, Bobby, because in my youth, I was in sales. I spent over 20 years in sales, in different
Mm.
across different industries. And I still remember when I was made a manager, right, or a supervisor the first time, where I was actually leading a sales team. And I lost
Mm.
over half of my sales team in less than 6 months. Just like you said,
Wow, that's so
they
much.
were they weren't going out the back door, Bobby. They were running out the front door. Okay, and I still remember my VP of sales called me in for a meeting, and he said, because of everything that's gone on your sales team, I should just demote you. I should just pull you back, or just send you on your way. And he was trying to figure out what to do. But I think he saw enough potential in me that he thought, I'm going to give this guy another chance. And this is what he said to
Mm.
me, very similar to what you heard. He said, Eric, leadership is not about you. It's about them. It's about the people that you lead. And just like you,
Mm.
I think I went home and I was like, much like what you said, who the hell does he think this guy, who the hell do you think you are? Like, I was livid. I was so upset. And then I had to calm down, much like you did, and come to the realization that I had been selfish, that I was making everything about me, that I was taking all of the acknowledgement of anything that went right in my organization on my sales team. I was taking credit for it, right? I was laying blame. If anything went wrong, it was not me, it was them, right? And it just a constant reminder ever since that leadership is not about me. It's about them. It's about the people that you lead. So, wow, very uncanny that we had very similar experiences there. Do you have any non-negotiables um, for building culture so that people can feel safe and are willing to take risks? Because I feel like many times, at least in my experience in working in like corporate America for 25 years, I felt like, hey, I have great ideas, but that safe environment wasn't there. I wasn't willing to risk it, to risk my job or risk my reputation, um, because there just wasn't that, the environment didn't exist. So what are your non-negotiables for that?
Mm. So, firstly, Eric, before I answer the question, loved your story, and I'm surprised how our story is so so much connected. I think we are global citizens, right? Wherever we are, but stories connect, and I think I love the story about you. So much to learn from your journey. So that's interesting. Now,
Thank you.
what are the non-negotiables for me for building a culture where people feel safe? Having worked with so many organizations and observed so many success stories and failed stories, I think you give a hint of it already in the question. The first thing, which I think became very famous after Google introduced it to the market, basically is psychological safety, isn't it?
Mm,
People need to feel
yeah,
safe to speak up without fear of ridicule or punishment.
yeah.
Now, what I've observed is it is one thing to say this in a great book, to read it out and put it in a mission statement. This is across organizations. What the mission statement says and what organization does and what leaders do are very different things. And I think it
I
happens
agree.
with all of us too. Correct?
I
But
100% agree with you.
correct. But here is also an observation. When leaders are very aggressive, when team members speak up about something that the leaders does not like, when there is a difference of opinion, and when a leader gets overly defensive and aggressive, I'm seeing, I'm looking at a root level and I'm observing not just at the fruit, but at the root. And my observation is there is a little boy who was so little when he was 3 years old, 5 years old. And every time he tried to ask a lot of questions, or he did not agree with his dad or parent or whoever, is there a possibility that the father or the guardian, whoever it was, became so aggressive? And unfortunately, that reporting manager or a senior leader or a CFO or a CXO role modeled it from the dad,
Mm,
and is bringing it up in an organization. Somebody stabbed him with that criticism or with that aggressiveness, and unfortunately he's bleeding on people who have nothing to do about it. Now, for me, it is so
yeah.
easy to bring
Wow.
in the whole element of psychological safety, but sometimes, there is a root behind it. And I think it is very important for leaders. If you want to build psychological safety, you got to heal from things that were bad leadership from people around you, from your reporting managers, your leaders, or unfortunately, even sometimes from family.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I like that phrase, psychological safety. That is so true because as leaders, you know, when I became a leader, no one ever gave me a book and said, "Here's everything you need to know, Eric. Go home, read this, and you're set." It doesn't happen that way. So yes, I bring leadership qualities to the table. There are certain things that I do innately just because of who I am in leadership. But there's many things or many skills that I've had to develop over time. But with those
Yeah.
skills also comes a great deal of past experience, right, in your personal life
Mm.
and relationships that you've had professionally and personally over time, and how those experiences have affected how you're going to react in certain situations in your professional life. I think definitely come to play. And so
Mm.
I love that creating that psychological safety enables all of us to be able to share and be vulnerable in those instances so that we can build winning cultures. I really love that. That is a great phrase. I'm gonna steal that from you if you don't mind. Psychological
Wonderful.
safety. I love it.
Wonderful. So the first one was psychological safety. The other thing, what I've observed also is, uh, when leaders, or team basically say we're going to take risk, the whole risk is basically anchored into an agreed shared purpose. It is
Yes.
not based on ego or chaos, or just because I want to show that, I've got a great idea, or I want to take this risk because I'm bold. No, there is this whole element of a shared purpose, which is very intrinsic, and people around them are aware of it. That's number two. And number three, which I think I shared from my own mentor's example, is, you know, the non-negotiable for building a great culture of bold leaders where people can, feel safe to take risks, is that leaders must visibly take risks themselves and celebrate learning over perfection.
I love that. Amen. Amen to that. I love it. Do you do you know of any myths that need to be busted when it comes to daring cultures?
Yeah, in fact, there are quite a number of myths. The first myth about daring culture is it's there or it is not there. What I mean by that is, a lot of people say that, bold leaders, because, daring cultures are created by individual people to begin with,
Uh-huh.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So there is one daring person, okay, whoever it is, and that person basically lives that daring culture, and slowly people around him, her, or, whoever, picks it up. Correct. So the first thing is, daring culture is not just born, it is something that is developed over a period of time. And a lot of it, like you correctly said, comes from the experiences that people face when they are not leaders and they are followers.
Right.
That's, I
Yeah.
think, one key thing that I've observed. The
Yeah.
the second thing that I've also observed is, daring culture is not about being reckless, just taking any risk, just doing anything. There is a sort of, boundary basically set, you know a thin boundary set. Basically, we call it as guardrails. So there is a shared value, there is a shared goal, and there is an ethical limit to, these are the risks that you can take and these are the risks that you can't take. Now, a lot of people say, but that is still a lot of control, right? There's too much of control. But just imagine if you have 10,000 employees in a very large organization, and people are allowed to experiment, taking risk, and if there is no limit set to it, just imagine the chaos, the mess, and the consequence of it, and the cost of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's going to be a pretty big cost. Uh
Yes.
Financially and people wise. So yeah, very, very big cost. Okay, great. I love that. That's great stuff. Um, if someone wanted to fuel a daring culture tomorrow, so if one of our listeners just happens to be a leader in their organization and they want to start up a daring culture right after they hear this podcast, what's their first step as a leader?
Uh, I think the first step as a leader is, before you actually initiate something within the organization, I think you will have to go back to your private victories first.
Oh,
In fact, that's my actually LinkedIn post today. In fact, the podcast that I put in. And what I've observed is, let us ask ourselves, every time we have a conflict in our own families, or with some close ones, or with business partners, or with a team, or in a situation, at that moment of time, our self awareness is not very high, is it?
No.
Because that moment of time, we become so emotional that we do not think from a long-term perspective. And I think one critical element for leaders who want to, basically role model daring culture, the first thing that they need to do is ask themselves what triggers them, what scares them, what strengthens them, what, encourages them, what, sparks that boldness in them. These are good questions a leader needs to ask themselves. It's so very important, because when a leader is able to actually ask those questions, then he knows that, let's say I enable my team to say, go ahead, take the risk, speak up, there is psychological safety. Now it's very easy for him to enable the team, and people will even listen to him very happily. But the question is, when they start experimenting, sharing an opinion that she does not like, you know, or they experiment something and there is a bit of a mess that happens, how will this leader react? Will he go back to being a dictator, go back to
Mm.
being aggressive? So
Right.
that is why I said the private victory is very, very important. Therefore, before you initiate a bold leadership, it is important for you to take a diary and pen and sit down with yourself and ask yourself, okay, I'm going to jump into an ocean of dare where I cannot guarantee what's on the other side. I have to swim and my team has to swim. So there is going to be an element of uncertainty. Am I buckled for it? Am I ready for it? It does not mean that you have all the steps. Some of the biggest successful leaders do not know all the answers, but they believe deeply within themselves. They trust the process, that they will
Yeah.
figure it out along the way. Can the
Yeah.
leader trust the team that they will figure it out along the way without aggressively stopping that project or the experiment? So the first
Right.
thing that I would say is go back to yourself. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is communicate what you want to the team very clearly, very confidently. Number three, set clear boundaries, which is not basically controls, but fences, so that it does not hurt the people, the project, and the organization too badly.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
And number
important.
four is basically, you as a leader, roll your sleeves, take that first step of dare. You know, Eric, you would agree that our dad, our moms, our brothers, our sisters, whoever were examples to our lives, and even today, regardless of what our age is today, those beautiful memories of our childhood, some of those most beautiful experiences happened because somebody in our family was a great bold leader, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They didn't just tell, they did. What they've impacted us so much that even 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 60 years down the line, every time we close our eyes and face of that person, we have a smile and, very important, respect in our heart for that person, even though the person may be there on this earth or not.
Yeah.
Team will role model bold leaders when we give them reasons to respect and give them
Yeah.
experiences and evidences that we are bold leaders ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. Wow. That is some really good stuff. Oh, that's in the book. All right. I gotta get this book. I gotta go. I gotta get a copy of it. I haven't bought it yet, so I'm gonna purchase the book tonight, and get it as soon as possible and read it, because I need to add to my best friends that are behind me here. I got 477 books and counting, and I need to
wow.
add yours to the list of books. So I totally agree with everything that you just said, and it resonates deeply in me. Um, I love daring examples of uh, that people have shown in leadership. I even look at something like my parents and the type of leadership that my parents demonstrated, and how daring they
Mm.
were in moving us from migrating us from Chile, where I'm from, to the United States. Right, I was 9 years old, so they
Wow.
basically said get on the plane, and I got on the plane. But they were very daring in what they were doing. My parents could not speak the language. It's not like now, where if you go to South America, 8 out of 10 people speak at least broken English, right? I mean, most people that I come in contact with speak some English. Back then, no one spoke English, right? I mean, nobody did. It wasn't something that you studied in school, so nobody cared. And they came here to this country and they were daring to do something that was going to benefit their family and bless their family long term. So I look at them even as an example of being daring in leadership, right? The way they led their family. I would add one thing to what you said, and that's that um, the importance of clarity when it comes to your vision and mission for your organization as a leader, right? Because I think so
Yes.
many times that piece is clouded, and I'll even use the example of my parents. We didn't move to America just to move to America. We could have done that, but that wasn't the reason why we moved. We moved here because my parents saw, hey, we have a young family and we want to be able to give our children the most opportunities to succeed possible. And they came to the determination that in their home country that they couldn't do that. They couldn't offer their children those opportunities. And so they moved their family to the United States, and their vision was extremely clear. And believe me, they hammered it to us every single day of why we moved here. And then the mission part of it, how were they going to um, obtain or help us to obtain those opportunities, right? I never would have imagined. I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I have a master's degree in organizational behavior or organizational management, I should say. And I'll just tell you, there is no way I go to college if I had lived in Chile. There is no opportunity for me to really to go to college. I'm definitely not a professional speaker, podcaster, author. I'm not any of those things. I don't know what I am, but I'm not those things. And so they had a very clear vision and mission of how they were going to, accomplish that vision that they had. So I really love your sentiment. I really love that you mentioned that leaders should take the time to even learn from everybody else that they lead because they don't have all the answers. So I love what you said about leaders trusting their people, right? Creating that trust and knowing that, hey, as a leader, you don't have all the answers, but collectively, the answer lies within the collective, within your people, within your organization that you lead. And so it's just a matter of trusting people and allowing those psychological safe places so that they can share with you and help you grow and develop as a leader as you move forward. So I really love everything that you have to say. It really does resonate deeply with me and in building culture. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Eric.
So we talk about a lot of the benefits and things, but what do you think the costs are of not doing anything? What's the cost to an organization's culture if we don't have bold leaders or daring cultures? What happens? What's the cost?
Think of every organization that no longer exists today. That's the cost. Look at organizations, you know, who does not love Nokia products? In India, you know, every person had Nokia. In fact,
I
the product
right
of,
here, man.
yeah, correct. But unfortunately, there wasn't a miss of a dare somewhere from the leaders, from a group of people. And that basically led to what had happened. Let's look at the example of Kodak, for example.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about Kodak, but isn't that truth? Every organization that got disrupted is because they did not dare to look beyond the comfort zone of what they had today. Like Tony Robbins wonderfully shares, that your past success is not equal to your future success. And that is a big truth. Regardless of how great we are as individuals, as teams, as leaders, as organization, our past success has got over And today and the future, things are gonna change. Specifically with AI coming, a lot of industries, possibly jobs might go, and people who are daring enough to upskill themselves, update themselves, adapt, change, and dare to try out new things are people who are going to survive. Everybody else may just, live, or some might have to, you know, exit.
Go away. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what happened. I think of like I so many great examples that you bring up, like Kodak. It's like that used to be like a household name, right? Like if you said Kodak back in the day, everybody knew exactly what you were talking about, right? And I think of other products like the Palm Pilot. Remember the Palm Pilot? I mean, that was a big hit. Like everybody wanted to have a Palm Pilot, because that stupid stylus pen, and it was
I
cool,
remember.
right? And the only thing that happened is you had to buy a
Even I
hundred
had it.
stylus pens because you always lost them, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty funny. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happens. Either you embrace that change and that willingness to do things differently and to be daring, or you may just survive, but I don't know, survival isn't that fun. Like you need to thrive instead of just survive. And or
Mm.
you're gonna find yourself on the outside looking in, right? Like Kodak and
Yeah.
so many other
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah.
Um,
And in fact, Eric, here is also one observation. Like right now, we've been speaking a lot about organization, which is great. But what I'm also realizing is organization is finally about individuals, right? A group of
yeah,
individuals.
yeah,
What I've observed is every time I have not dared on things that I should have dared, the bill of regret is very costly.
yeah.
And I was listening to somebody called Myron Golden, I think his name is. Loved his content, and you know, a lot of people say, time is money. We've heard that always, right? Time is money, but literally, money can come and go. In fact, we have observed in our own lives, right? There are times when money has gone completely and has also come.
Yeah.
But interestingly, time can never come back, regardless of whatever, even the richest person on planet Earth or Mars that we are trying to explore now, time can never come back. And this is the truth.
Yep.
When we can actually dare, when we have the time, the energy, and whatever ability in us to dare, we can dare. There will be a time when we'll have no energy and no time to dare. So we better dare now a little every day.
Yep. Yep. And I think that daring helps you to be prepared for the next opportunity, right? Because I feel like if you don't dare when those opportunities come, you're not going to be ready for it. So you got to dare
Yeah.
to do things differently. You got to dare to put yourself out there in order for things to happen. Um, great stuff. So,
I loved
Bobby,
it.
it's
In fact, I actually made a note of what you just said. I love that. The whole element of you said dare actually helps you to start getting ready for a new opportunity. So I love
yeah,
that. I'm making note.
yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Oh, we see. I love that. Borrowing from each other. I like it. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bobby,
Mm.
it's been fantastic having you here. Just for all of our listeners out there, I am going to put all the social media links for Bobby. You guys definitely want to follow him on LinkedIn. And I will put the link to his book in the description so all of you can go and get a copy to Fallen to Rise. I mean, just the name alone, I'm sold. Like I want to read it, so I can't wait. So, Bobby, one last question before we sign off. What's one bold challenge you could leave our lifers with today?
Mm. One bold challenge that somebody could take. In fact, I am actually writing a book on dare currently. And you are actually the first person I'm sharing it outside my family.
Well, thank you.
And in fact, the book is on dare. What the title is, I'm not sharing it yet. And one of the messages in that book is about micro dares every day. What my observation is, a lot of people say that, I want to dare big things. I want to achieve this. And, I want to go to the moon, or I want to do that. I want to be a star. I want to be in front of 10,000 people. And that is absolutely amazing. I love that too. However, it starts with basically one micro dare a day. And I give an example. In fact, I give an example. When we have a cup of tea every day or a coffee, we just put a little morsel, right? A little cup of tea. And that makes a great cup of tea or coffee for us. Exactly just like that, we need a little dare every day incrementally. One little action. If you're a person who does not like talking to people, or talking specifically to people who know more than you, can you dare and go to them and say, listen, I love your wisdom, would love to have a conversation around it. It could just be a conversation, sometime connecting with somebody who's really a big influencer who almost seem out of reach. I've done that. Just send an email to an influencer whom you want to connect, and you just connect. So one micro dare a day every day, not the big ones, but one micro dare a day, and one day you become unrecognizable. You become a greater, bigger, bolder version of you that you don't even recognize. But it starts from that micro dare.
Yeah, man. Beautiful stuff. I love that. Micro dares. And you heard it here first. So can't wait for that book to come out. Sounds like something I would definitely want to read. Bobby, it's been an incredible time being able to spend with you. I know that you're in your time zone. You guys are well into the night, into the evening hours. So thank you so much again for taking the time from your busy schedule to come on with us and share all of your great wisdom about leaders and daring cultures with all of our lifer listeners. We really appreciate it. I very much appreciate you. And I will continue to follow you and continue to learn from you. You mentioned it just takes one daring, a micro dare, right? And that was me reaching out to you to be on the podcast because I thought, hey, you know what? This guy is a superstar in what he does, and I need to learn from him. And I can tell you, just from the few minutes we were able to spend together on this episode, I definitely came away a much more improved and daring leader. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And remember, to all of you lifers out there, dare, be a daring leader. It'll help you build a daring culture, and it also allows you to continue to live the life. Bobby, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Eric. It means a lot. I truly appreciate your kind words and so much to learn from you too. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.